Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. New cards, that's right. Saviors of Uldum, we got a bunch of new cards for you guys. The ratings are coming pretty soon, TM, but for now, I just want to give you guys my initial opinion on some of the cards that have been revealed to us recently. Full-on card reveal season is coming in a few days, but for now, we had a few cards revealed through Blizzard, through the metrics of you guys doing the Tavern Brawl Dungeon Run hybrids that they have for us, the events they put on. It's like 25 million boss kills equals 4 card reveals. We're 3 in. They revealed like 3 more cards through their tournament series, whatever, and we're going to take a look here. What do we have? First off, we have, it's the Plague. So Plagues are kind of like the spells that we had in the past that affect everything. So in this case, both players get 2/2 knives with poisonous. Now, this is a pretty interesting effect. It is a spell-based weapon card, so it's playable if you happen to randomly get the spell through other cross-class means. It's also a card that lets you push for some damage. Think of it this way. If you're playing a very aggressive rogue deck, it's more important for you to deal 4 damage to your opponent than it might be for the opponent to deal 4 damage to you. And also, in that sense, if your opponent might be able to kill the small minions that you play out in front of him, he's taking damage from those as well. The way that I see this card is it's like a hyper aggro card. Now, hyper aggro rogue might not be a thing, so there's a fair chance that this card doesn't end up seeing too much play at all, but it's not too bad. We had a card similar to this for Warrior, the one that gives both players 2/3 weapons and I think it's like 8 armor. This card is similar, but it just doesn't apply to the same game plan. When you play that card in Warrior, you are typically playing it for weapon removal and the stall potential. Rogue is just not capable of that gameplay style, which is why weapon removal in Rogue as a whole is just not that valuable. You can't really out-control most other players. So with that in mind, it is quite strictly an aggressive card, but a pretty fair one at that. Certainly a card we're going to give a try, but certainly not one I would rate 5 stars, let's say. Next up, we have Psychopump. Now, this is a 4-cost 3/1, so the stats are absolutely abysmal, and it features the res mechanic that Priest has throughout Hearthstone's history been very well known for. Now, it reses something and gives it Reborn. Reborn makes it so when it dies, it comes back with 1 health remaining. So it's kind of like the redemption secret in a way. It's not bad. In regards to the card itself, you really have to get something that's quite strong. I don't think you can just play this in every single priest deck, so you have to play this in a priest deck that actually has minions that are worth resurrecting. And if you have those, it's a really good card. Now, the side effect is that it itself is a really crappy res target. So if you're playing a priest deck with lots of resurrection mechanics, it would kind of suck if Psychopump resed a Psychopump. Now, it's not terrible. Like, if it did res a Psychopump, let's just put it that way, you're playing a 4-mana 3/1 that also spawns a 3/1, and when that 3/1 dies, you get another 3/1. It's not like terrible, right? It's still okay. So with that in mind, the card is actually very good. It's a very good card, but it does have a fairly narrow path in which it can take. You just can't dump this in every priest deck. And with that in mind, how good is Res Priest? Well, that's a really big question that's going to take a lot more card reveals to really answer. Next up, we got 3 Paladin cards. All of these were revealed as part of Hearthstone's tournament reveal. First one is Salhet's Pride, 3-cost 3/1 beast, and the death rattle draws 2 1-health minions from your deck. So when it dies, you get this effect. Now a 3-mana 3/1, oh, that's going to die very quickly, very easily. So the effect is pretty consistent. I don't think this death rattle is quite strong enough to warrant a silence, so you're just gonna get it. Now, a 3-mana 3/1 is a terribly statted card. A 3-mana 3/1 is not even worth 2 mana. It's typically, I would say, worth 1 mana. These days, people are playing 1-mana cards that are 1/3s, which are probably better stats than that, or they're playing 1-mana cards that are like 2/1s with abilities. So in terms of the card itself, it's a 1-mana stat value card, and for 2 mana, you're drawing 2 1-health minions from your deck. That is pretty weak, but if you're developing a paladin that, just spews out constant early game cards, it is very much in line with that, and the other paladin cards that we had revealed to us kind of do that, as you'll see here in a moment. The other consideration is we have not yet seen the paladin quest, and considering that all the paladin cards revealed so far seem to indicate that there's a lot of synergy between spawning a lot of small cards and searching for a lot of small minions, well, it might be that it works very well with the paladin quest, but that's just, wishful thinking at this point at best. Next up for Paladin, we have Sand Wasp Queen. It's a 2-mana 3/1 beast, and the battle cry adds 2 2/1 Sand Wasps to your hand. So just very similar to Acorn Bearer, but it's got a little bit more attack. You can't quite ignore the guys. If you compare it to Acorn Bearer, having a 2-mana 3/1 is a lot worse than having a 1-mana 2/1, but having the effect off of a battle cry is actually pretty strong, because you have to consider that Sand Wasp Queen can be played, and then you can immediately play the 1-mana 2/1 Sand Wasp. So you can play 4 mana 3/1, 2/1, 2/1. And if your opponent doesn't have an answer for that, that's 7 damage on 4 mana across 3 bodies. So it's deceptively, I wouldn't say amazing, but deceptively decent. Sand Wasp Queen certainly looks like total trash, but I think it's at the very least an average card, and certainly one you'd consider once again if this type of, thing with small minions is, forwarded more than it is right now through further synergy or perhaps even the Paladin quest. Certainly possible, and certainly could elevate the card into the very good range. Third card, Brazen Zealot. 1 cost 2/1. Whenever you summon a minion, gain 1 attack. So this is kind of what I was talking about. It's just a very solid 1-drop. And again, if Paladin is playing that theme where you have to just, spew out a ton of minions all the time, Brazen Zealot is going to be a very fair 1-drop, and fair 1-drops, they're pretty good in Hearthstone. If it's a good 1-drop, it's a card that's probably going to see some play. Out of the 3 Paladin cards that we saw today, I think the Brazen Zealot has the highest chance of seeing play, but at the same time, all the cards seem to have some synergy with one another, so they might come as a package deal. Certainly a bit of an insight into the future of Paladin, but I think we need to see a little bit more before we make any solid conclusions on the fact. Last card for today, we have another plague, and in my opinion, maybe aside from bees, it is the most talked about card of the upcoming Saviors of Uldum expansion, and that card is Plague of Murlocs. That's right. Plague of Murlocs transforms all minions into random Murlocs. Not bad. Now, there has been some studies done on this card. Obviously, we don't have all of the cards from the upcoming expansion known to us, so there might be some more Murlocs that are not included in the power level of this card. But as of right now, this very moment in time where we don't know any new Murlocs that are coming out, we can understand the card based on the Murlocs that exist in the game, in the standard game at the very least. So, with that in mind, about half the Murlocs are total garbage and die to 1 damage. More than that, about a quarter of the Murlocs tend to die to like a Consecration Lightning Storm effect, and the last quarter tend to survive that. So about 1 in 4, you get like a mid-range minion. Half the time, you get a total garbage minion, and 1 in 4, you get a fair 2-drop-ish card. So that gives you some understanding of the power level of the card. There's also some charging Murlocs, so it's possible that you play this and actually get a lethal from like charging bluegills with war leaders behind. Certainly possible. So it's going to produce some pretty epic highlights. In general, it is a glorified mass polymorph effect. Now, that is relatively strong in general. We've seen cards like that see play in the past from Shaman with Devolve. This is a little bit worse if it's strictly for that purpose, but it's obviously more multi-purpose than that. As such, the card is probably going to require some play testing to really see how good it's truly going to be. But on first glance, I think it is really cool. I think it's a very cool effect, and I think it's going to produce a lot of YouTube highlights. So just stick it in those shaman decks, and you'll have something to talk about with your friends. In terms of how useful it is across the full spectrum of shaman decks, if you're playing a big shaman deck, you can use this as a form of board clear, because if there's a board you can't handle, maybe you can make it into Murlocs, and then maybe you can clear after that. If you're playing like a quest shaman, which has a lot of the battle cry effects, a new quest that is, maybe you're playing a lot of lackeys, a lot of small minions, it might actually upgrade your board if you're playing mostly lackeys when making everything into Murlocs, while perhaps at the same time, if you're playing against big cards, nerfing your opponent's minions. If you have that double-sided effect, that's actually really impactful, so it can be quite a strong card if that type of deck gets off the ground. Lastly, a very important aspect to Plague of Murlocs is Hungry Crab. That's right. Hungry Crab is probably going to make a comeback, because regardless of the size of Murloc your opponent is getting, Hungry Crab is going to be able to kill it. As such, it's also a battle cry card, so it synergizes with the quest and all that, and it's a crab. It's really cool. Let me know what you guys think about these cards. Hope you guys await more of these videos, because they're coming.